Hey guys, welcome to my channel. For those that are returning, welcome back again. For those that are brand new and have no idea what this channel is about, my name is Kristen, and you reached my little corner of the world where I bring you nothing but good vibes, confidence building tips, journal prompts, affirmations, ways to uplift your spirit when you're feeling down in the valleys. I'm here to bring you Bible questions, things that you can think about, resonate with. And this video is similar to another one I did back in January, where I give you a book of the month and I tell you a little bit about what I'm reading and what you can take from it, because everything on this channel, if you haven't guessed, has kind of a theme and a vibe to it. So we're going to keep it rolling, okay? For those that are new to my book of the month series, and I try to do these at least once a month, but going into March specifically, I'll do a few more because March is reading month at my son's school. And I was like, let me actually take that and bring that to my YouTube people as well, because hey, I'm a girl. When I tell you, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I have a stack of books by my bed, and I have the leaning tower of books to my left. My boyfriend teases me because I have books there that I've read multiple times, but I don't want to give away, even though I should, to make room for new ones. But I'm a reader at heart, and if you are too, you need to stick around for my series, because I'm going to give you guys some of the books that I've been reading. I'm not going to tell you about it. That's not what I do. What I do is I kind of give you a brief summary so you can, take what you want with it. If it's a book that you want to read, I give you like the themes that came out of the book and how it can tie back to some of the topics that we've already been talking about. So for the month of February, we've been focusing a lot on self-love, self-confidence, self-compassion, and basically everything that you need as a foundational starting point to elevate your glow up journey. That's the word that, I've been seeing thrown around Instagram and on social media, the glow up. But basically reaching your highest level of yourself, it has to start from within here. You can't start by, I got to go get this, six-figure job, or I got to start this six-figure business, or I got to go drive a Mercedes, or I got to wear Chanel and Dior and all these other things. No, none of that stuff matters unless you can start from within here, because even if you're wearing that flashy stuff, sweetie, no one's going to feel that confidence radiating off of you if you don't feel it yourself. So most of what I teach is all about that. And then also all about being able to show yourself some grace and some love, and how to overcome maybe different challenges that you're faced with, but do it with grace and with a smile. Because as I mentioned here on this channel, we are Christian girlies, okay? We believe in God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And you might hear me mention a Bible verse here and there, but when I tell you and I mention it, it means that there's something there that spoke to my spirit, the Holy Spirit told me to tell you, okay? And it ties into basically anything that we talk about. So without further ado, let me get into the book of the month, and we'll go over actually 4 lessons that I learned from this book that I think could be helpful to you. And as always, if you want to pick up the book that I mentioned, please go down to the description section and click the little link. It'll take you straight to Amazon. I'm a person that likes efficiency, so I do go to libraries and things, but if you're a person that you're like, I'd rather just order it and have it delivered to my door, you can definitely check out the link below. So the book of the month is The Fledgling, okay? This book is written by Octavia Butler. For those that are familiar with the author or are brand new, she wrote other very, very good novels, one of which is called Kindred. The other is The Parable of the Sower. Kindred is a book that I read back in high school. Now, at the time, I didn't grasp enough of what she was really trying to tell in that particular story. I thought it was more just historical fiction, and that's just the way it was going to be. But as I got older and I reread that piece of literature, and then also The Parable of the Sower, I realized that Octavia has this way of putting in different lessons, definitely using different anecdotes, and basically giving you a lot to think of in her work of art. I think all books are a work of art because it does take a while to put these things together. This particular book, as it relates to the theme of the month, actually shows how one character in particular, maybe a couple of them throughout the book, really bring out self-love through adversity, through things that they're going through. they are able to shine through and not let the words of others or the opinions of others really affect them. And this actually ties back to, I guess you can say, a few of the videos I've done before, my Beauty Becomes Her series specifically, where I talk about this idea of perfection, or this idea of really, I guess you can say, taking other people's opinions at face value and not really honing your own and adding your own spin to it, and also being grateful for the things that you have along the way. And these are the lessons as I go through them. I'm going to give you guys 4 of them in this book that I learned through the eyes of this character, which is why it took me a second to do the book of the month video, because I wanted to actually finish this cover to cover before I talked about it. So just a brief synopsis about the book, if you're curious what it's about. It's a unique spin, okay, on the vampire myth. So if you don't know, or if you're brand new, I could share this. I am a huge supernatural kind of girly. Like, I love the CW. My boyfriend thinks I should be the spokesperson for the CW and all the TV shows on there. Specifically, the TV show Supernatural, Vampire Diaries, the originals, things like that. I love those series. Sometimes I rewatch them. I've been rewatching them over the last 7 years, but I can't stop. They're really good. And then I also have been diving into a lot of like dark romanticy is what I call it. So it's like fantasy, but romance in there. And I'm actually moving into continuing the trend, but towards the end of March, my goal is to get into the more historical fiction. And I actually met an author, and I'll talk about that in a different video, that tell me a bit about a book he wrote that instantly made me grab it. But this book in particular was one I picked up at the library, and it talks about 3 different themes: survival, identity, and resilience. All of those things kind of do tie into the self-love aspect. And here's why. The main character, whose name is Shori, she basically begins her story waking up with amnesia, meaning she doesn't remember anything of who she was before a tragedy happened upon her village. But she does realize she wakes up in a cave. She's kind of living like a cave person, but in modern times. So I noticed they have like a lot of cell phones and things throughout the story. So I'm taking it's probably in the 2000s or late 2000s. She's having to overcome the adversity of basically relearning herself and embracing her own power. So in the story, she is a modern day vampire, but in the book they call it an Ina. So throughout the book you hear the word Ina. When you hear that, that means that's a vampire essentially, but she doesn't understand what it is that she is because of the trauma that she experienced. And because of that, she's having to kind of relearn everything that her family's kind of taught her, not only through what her people that she eventually finds tell her, but then also things that she's discovering on her own. So Shori is a genetically modified Ina, so vampire. Again, she wakes up with no memory, and there has been a severe attack where her mother's family and eventually her father's families are completely wiped out, and she's all alone. So during this time, as she makes her way out of her cave, where she's been like living off of deer and all of these different animals, she discovers that she has the power to not only feed on humans, because what vampires do, but instead of humans feeling that pain, they instantly become attached to her. And she learns this through one particular human that she stumbles upon for the first time. His name's Wright. They develop some sort of, I would say, initially a strange relationship, because the way that they describe Shori, or Octavia describes Shori, is that she's small, kind of like childlike, but in reality, she's not a child. She is basically 55 years old in Ina world, but in our world, she would be like maybe in her 20s, but she's small enough to resemble a child. So initially, the human that she first comes across thinks that she is one, but she has to kind of prove herself in a way, stating that she isn't. And now you're probably thinking, okay, what does Shori look like? Well, the way that Octavia describes her, she is a Black woman. We're going to say it like that. She's a woman of color. She has darker skin, darker hair, and she's frail. She's small, she's skinny, because she hasn't been around other Ina who have taught her how to maintain her health and be healthy. And throughout this time, I guess you can say the first few chapters, she's understanding like exactly what she's capable of doing, and also where she fits into the human society through the eyes of the first person that she meets. Okay. And through this time, she's understanding that anytime that she needs to consume blood, she's not only building a deep connection with the person that she's taking it from when she wants to, but she's understanding that not only is she dependent on them, they're dependent on her for survival. So the story goes, if an Ina happens to be away from their human for an extended period of time that they fed upon, the human essentially dies, long story, and then the Ina eventually dies if they don't have enough humans to live off of. And so as she's learning these things, you know, she tells the human that she's with that she wants to relearn and retrace her steps, and she wants to really understand what it is that she is, because one of the things she's noticing is like on TV. So I did mention like Supernatural and all of those TV shows. Well, it just so happens that she's trying to learn the concept of a vampire, of who she is from what the media is telling her versus her own people. So as the story goes on, she does eventually come across her people. She finds her biological father, who eventually dies due to an attack. And she learns from him and his society what exactly an Ina is and how they live. And they live very differently. They live in a way where they have their own little communities, okay? They have, you know, the Ina and then the people that they feed on. So they're symbionts is what they call them. And they live almost in harmony. So it's not like the Inas are killing their humans like the normal vampires. They're actually helping them live longer. They're able to, you know, be healthier. They're able to surpass any viruses, anything like that. And the Inas are able to be strong, but also own their own communities at the same time. And so as Shori is learning this, and also the humans that she's acquiring are learning this, she's realizing something. One, she has different abilities than the others that are there. She's able to go out in sunlight because her skin has a lot more melanin. She can't stay out that long. She is essentially a vampire, so she does have to cover herself, but she doesn't lose energy the way that the other Inas do or die in the sunlight. So they kind eventually rely on her to protect their villages and things. So through this time, she's understanding that the different Inas, as she's learning who she is through her father and other resources, that she doesn't understand exactly where she fits in their society, but she knows that she needs to be around them to understand what it is that she needs to do and how to move like that particular community. So I want to talk about a couple major themes that have been going on in this book and lessons that I've taken that resonate with what we've been talking about for this whole month. So one of the biggest key takeaways has been the adversity side. So understanding that not only is she different from humans because she feeds on blood, but she's also different from her Inas because she's dark skinned. She's a black woman. The other Inas are pale. They have blue eyes, blonde hair. Even her mothers and fathers had that. How Shori came to be was that she was genetically modified, where they mixed her Ina blood with human blood. Okay. And through this, you know, like I mentioned, she is understanding how to rely on her own curiosity and strength, because she has, like I said, no memory, no family, and no sense of identity through a good portion of this story. And the very first lesson and takeaway that I have that relates to this month is that we may not always have control over our circumstances or what happens to us. So in her case, losing her entire family, but we can control how we respond. So instead of Shori, you know, immediately going on a rampage and killing everything and anyone in sight, she wanted to truly understand who she is, number one, so understanding that she's not human and she's not entirely Ina, but also accepting the fact that, yes, her family's not coming back, but the question really remained, what exactly was she going to do about it? And throughout the whole story, she's on a journey to uncover what exactly happened to her family, what happened to her, and also basically who's going to take responsibility for what happened. But at no point throughout the story did she unleash, I guess you can say, hellfire on anyone and anything that she assumed would was doing her wrong or was causing her family harm. She relied heavily on, her symbionts in this case. So initially it was Wright, a young man that was about the same age as her, but obviously looked a lot older than she did. She relied on his, strength, but then also reassurance that he wasn't going to abandon her, and also that he was there to help her uncover what things that were wrong. So I guess you can say the number one acceptance when it comes to handling adversity, as it relates to self-love, is accepting, because it's the first step in rebuilding things. Lesson number 2 is that true strength comes when we embrace our power and our own struggle. So in relation to this particular story, Shori had to understand that while as she's, understanding the community of the Ina, where she discovers they all have their own, ability where they, are able to go out at night. They're nocturnal. They're able to, expand their abilities of self-healing to their symbionts. She also has her own ability of being able to go out in daylight when they can't. And because of that, she's learned to embrace her differences and not continuously look in them. You'll never find a moment in this story where she's looking at them in the mirror and questioning her worth. She understands that her place is to not only protect her symbionts, but then also to hold her own. And as she understands the Ina's community and how secretive they are from the human society, that she also essentially needs to protect them as well. And through this, what we've learned here is that confidence is, like I mentioned, not only trusting yourself to find a way forward, but it's also not resting in the idea that you are lost and that no one in this world is here to help you. So I think Shori, if I can relate to her character, is that her confidence is unrelenting. It's undeniable. It's something that, a lot of us continuously seek for, especially when things get hard. And one of the takeaways that you can take is that although she lost her family, essentially her identity, she kept going and she had a mission. And we have goals and things that we're striving for. And there's no reason for us to get down on ourselves and feel in this, I guess you could say, in our valleys, when there's so many different resources available, not only within ourselves, but in society that could possibly help. And then I guess you could say the third lesson that I took away is that not everyone is here to accept you. Your worth is also not dependent on others' opinions. Yes, I took notes. From this particular story, one of the things I also loved about Shori is that she wasn't relying so heavily on what Wright, her first symbiote, thought about her, but then also what the community of Ina thought about her. She relied heavily on what she thought about herself and what her true mission was when she started to regain her memory. And that, of course, like I mentioned, was to essentially avenge her families in a positive way, but then also to protect the community that she was beginning to build. And she realized that she didn't need the thoughts and opinions of, I guess you can say, her own people that sought out to do her wrong because she looked differently from them. So one of the things with Octavia Butler, she does tie in quite a bit of racism and sexism in this particular book because of, Shori being a woman and a woman of color. But she also brings forth light that, eventually society starts to see what the ignorance of other people and how that can affect an entire community. And so towards the end of the book, what you'll understand is, as Shori's telling her story, what happened to her family and happened to her, the majority of the Ina people had her back. And they realized that the people that did those horrible acts of destroying her family and killing her loved ones, they needed to be held responsible. And throughout that time, as I mentioned, she was not dependent. She did not value her worth or who she was based on what those negative people that caused that harm did to her. And so I say all this to say, loving yourself, and I wrote this down, does not mean isolation. So that's one of the things in this book too. She never really stayed completely to herself. She always surrounded herself with people that loved her, for who she was, what she was, and never treated her differently. So that would be her symbionts. And it also means recognizing that you deserve love while giving it freely. So although throughout the moments that she's like biting her symbionts or, consuming their blood like a vampire would, she never has forces them to do things against their will, but at the same time, she's able to receive genuine love from people that appreciate not only her coming forth about her family and protecting their particular family name, but then also recognizing that she's there to protect the Ena community. And she's also giving herself that love back by standing up for herself and never letting, I guess you can say, the people that are causing her harm make her feel less than that. So I know that was a lot, but this book is a really good one. It's not a series or anything. It's a one book novel. Again, it's called The Fledgling by Octavia Butler. If you are into like the vampires or things like that, this is a really good book. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. If you want to see all of the books that I'm currently reading, ones that I plan on reading, or ones that I've read in the past, you should definitely check out my Goodreads. You can follow, my page there. And I look forward to hearing, your guys' feedback on this book or others that I've read, because that'll give me inspirations of what to read next, because I'm on this journey of reading 48 books in the year, and I've already read 6 already, and there's so many more stories to tell. Well, with that, I thank you guys for listening, and please, please, please check out The Fledgling in the description section below. Make sure you purchase it, or you can go check it out at your local library.